Hello. It is 8 a.m. in the morning, and I am recording a podcast, which I will never do again. I've had about 3 hours of sleep, and Cam did not know that until I just started recording this podcast. But Cam is here to make a podcast, and I am here to make a podcast because when you commit to something, you do it. And I have the ability to do it because I love podcasting. So, as I told Cam, we are going to open the ADHD rantings and habits and rantings of Nick Pagano, which is the new podcast, Not Autistic Pod. And we are going to listen to a full heavy metal song so we can get into a mood here. So, good morning, Cam. Let me pull this up here.
Morning.
Cam is like, oh my goodness, what have I
Yeah.
walked into?
Way to start the morning, huh?
This isn't like a regular podcast. Exactly, right? Yeah, way to start a morning. I love that because it's in the morning. I haven't watched the lyric video.
If you're struggling to edit your
yeah,
podcast,
yeah.
it's not you, it's your tools.
Shut
So let's check out how Riverside makes editing.
Use Riverside. Here we go. You can hear it?
I can hear it.
Strip off the weight of morality and check it at the door. I'll show you the worst in me. Now out the candles, I ignite a wish. For I am everything I'm crossing my boots and lick. I'ma have my cake and fucking eat you too. It's my party, I got time and I want to die when I want to, die when I want to. What's under me is wearing the crown. I'll be the king and you'll be the crown. I'll take the blame, parade it around. You made me the feeling you can't live without.
Pretty heavy lyrics, right?
It's pretty heavy.
Poetic.
Reciting violence like poetry. No, you can't sit with us to bash us, not blame the lane. Forget everything you think you knew of who I used to be. I look much better as the idol bird. I'ma have my fucking cake and eat yours too. It's my party, I'll die when I want to, die when I want to, die when I want to. The monster of me is wearing the crown. I'll be the king and you'll be the crown. I'll take the blame, parade it around. You made me the villain you can't live without.
Everybody needs a villain.
I want you low. I won't let you die. Keep you alive. Just to remind you of what you are not. It's my party. I'll die when I want to. You wanna see me fail, but I won't die for you. It's my party. I'll die when I want to. Die when I want to. Die when I want to. The monster of me is wearing the crown. I'll be the king and you'll be the crown. It's my party. I'll die when I want to. Die when I want to. Die when I want to. I want to now. I'ma have my cake and fucking eat you too.
All right, so what'd you think of that song, Cam?
That's a very interesting song. You had said how heavy metal saved your life. So when I hear that song and I was paying attention to the lyrics, it made me curious. What was it about heavy metal that saved your, and did you say wife?
What do you think that song is saying?
It is saying, I would say, kind of how traditional roles in society mess the person up.
Okay, that's part of it. Yes. You know what I hear?
What?
You know what I hear? I was pushed close to ending my life because of society, but I will die when I want to. You don't decide, I do. And
Uh,
that is the breakthrough for people that have depression.
yeah, well, there are a lot of habits and behaviors in society that aren't very conducive. And I would say I have felt the same in many ways. And sometimes we kind of have to separate from what the norm is or what everyone is doing for our own mental health and, in a lot of ways, sanity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think heavy metal fans have it figured out. I've been trying to save my fiance because she listens to heavy metal and she's so depressed and never wants to talk about her emotions, but it's the heavy metal keeping her, that's the therapy. Heavy metal is written by the best philosophers and therapists the world has ever seen. They
Okay,
just don't
that's it.
realize it. I could play you another song. We won't go down that rabbit hole, but I'll play you one when we're done. We are going to outro a song based on how we dealt with it, based
Sure.
on our whole conversation. And if I can think of a good one, but I can already think of one that would make sense from what you've said, that would be perfect, which is from my favorite band of all time, Bring Me the Horizon. But we didn't come to talk about heavy metal. We came to talk about your tactics, your help outside of heavy metal, because sometimes people need more than that.
Yeah.
Sometimes people need to sit down and actually speak with a specialist. And, because I went through things last year, I was thinking about ending it all. I came very, very close. And I've determined that, when you reach that point, if you suffer that deep of a depression and you reach the point where you are legitimately ready to end your life, somebody has to go. Either the voice that got you there or you.
Yeah. Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. And so this might be a good time to kind of talk a little bit about who I am and what I do.
Please. Yes, exactly. Yes.
All
Now
right.
you can intro. Now we're doing a podcast. Yeah, that's
All
the
right.
weird way I
Perfect.
introduce things, but it set the tone, right?
It's a good tone, and I think it's gonna add to our conversation.
And that's
So
this
my
that's
name.
them right there, Motionless in White. Fucking
Okay, cool,
badass
cool.
band. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
So my name is Cam Knight. I am a mentor, international speaker, and author of a dozen books that you see behind me in the area of mental, physical, and emotional performance. So I get the emotional aspect of what heavy metal, as you are saying, helps people with. It's trying to express and help release or at least express the emotions that are
Yeah,
blocked
it's
in.
cathartic. It's
Yeah,
cathartic. You hear,
yeah,
and then there's other songs where they talk about like songs that you would think would lead people to ending it. But it's because they talk about it.
yeah,
Nobody else talks about it. It's all
yeah,
taboo. You can't talk about these feelings. Well, that's dumb because that means that people are going to get in the feelings and not know what to do about it and feel alone and scared and confused. And when somebody else comes out and said, "Hey, you ever felt like taking a razor to your arm? Me too. Here's why you felt that way. I know that pain, and it's okay." Because we can fucking rage together. We can get in a mosh pit and smash into each other, maybe lose a tooth, but then come out as friends.
yeah. That's a very interesting perspective. I love it. So now I talk about a concept called internal resistance, which answers a question I had my whole life. And that is, why is it if I want to do something, I know what to do, I know how to do it, and I have the motivation and desire to do it, but for one reason or another, I can't or don't do it. And what's
Absolutely.
really interesting is at the time, there were no clear answers. the best answers I was coming across related to beliefs and that you needed to have better beliefs or you had limiting beliefs.
Okay.
And that is one part of the equation. And I think it's a small piece of the puzzle, but I always felt like there was more to it. And then over the last 15 to 20 years, that question lingered in my mind. Every time I felt stuck, I wondered why. Why can't I get stuff done? Why do I keep spinning my wheels? Why don't I just do this dang thing so I can get the result that I want? And the more books I read, coaching I did, and seminars I attended, the more I learned about the complexities of the human brain. And at a
Excellent.
certain point, I had this epiphany, aha moment. And I
I
was
have
like,
those. I just had one
yeah,
of those the other week. That's why I renamed my podcast. But anyway, please tell me your epiphany, Cam.
yeah, is there's a part of our brain designed to hold us back. There's a part of
Mm-hmm.
our mind built to keep us from growing and making progress. And I
Yes.
call this part resistance. And it's this
Yes.
brick wall that we hit anytime we want to do something, but we can't, no matter how much we want to do it.
Okay. I love it.
Yeah.
Teach me how to break through the wall, baby. Let's do it. We got time. Let's go,
All
Cam.
right. So here's the interesting thing. I have been doing quite a bit of podcasts recently,
Yeah.
and I do get that question right off the bat. So, how do I break through resistance? And
Sure.
that's a question that helps to ask in a little bit when we kind of understand more of what's going on. So, I'll kind of jump into that. What's really important to understand is that the part of the brain that creates wants and desires, it works separately and independent of the part that allows us to act on that desire.
Yeah.
So, this is a,
Can I do an ADHD interruption? I had a guy on
please.
the podcast who told me that the way he looks at the brains is there's an emotional side of the brain and there's a logical side of the brain.
Yeah.
And what helps is if you don't beat up your emotional side with the logic and you don't, emotional over the logic side, they have to kind of negotiate. When
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
No,
Yeah,
no, no,
that's the
this is
idea.
good. Keep going. I don't
Yeah.
want to interrupt you.
No, it's
Okay.
fine. It's just yeah, so when they negotiate, like let's say like with ADHD, like you don't want to get up. You're stuck in a ADHD hole, they call it.
Yeah.
You're just stuck in seeking dopamine or whatever. So your logic brain says, "Hey, come on, get up and do something." And then your ADHD brain says, your emotional brain says, "Oh, you know what? I don't like when we do that. I just want to do this." And then the logic brain would usually go, "Stop being so ridiculous. You're being
Yeah.
silly. Stop. No, you're pussy. Stand up. Stop being a wuss." And then emotional brain, what's an emotional brain going to do? It's going to get sad. It's going to
Yeah.
hate itself. Instead
Yeah.
of that, you got to say, "Listen, emotional brain, I understand. Okay? I know. It's frustrating. I would like to sit here too, but if we don't get up and do something, we're going to regret it later. Remember how you regretted it last time? So let's
Yeah.
do this. How about this? Why don't you just stand up? Okay? You can do that. If it doesn't feel good, sit right back down. Okay? Let's just try standing up. Okay, so I stood up. Oh, well, that doesn't seem so bad. All right, well, now let's go wash a dish or something, Let's wash one dish and, just one baby step at a time,
Yeah.
but being nice to yourself instead of smashing yourself down and saying you're not capable.
Yeah. So that is a very awesome perspective, and it's really a concept that kind of comes into play with inner child work. So there's many causes of resistance, and one of them has to do with the inner child. And what I mean by that is that as we're growing up, if we had traumatic experiences or different events, we have that part of us still in us.
I
And
think
it
every
seems,
single person has trauma. Just to interrupt you
yeah,
again, Cam, I think
yeah,
every single person, when they're told stop being a child, it's time to grow up, there's
yeah.
a trauma there.
Yeah. And trauma is relative. So people
Exactly.
think trauma is like happens from big or serious events, but it can happen from smaller events as well. It's not
Exactly.
so much the severity of the event, it's how severely the brain took it.
Mm-hmm.
And so someone can have as much or more trauma to a light event as someone might to what would be perceived as a severe event. So trauma is not about the actual event or what society deems as big or severe. It's how much severely the brain took it. So yeah, everyone definitely has it. And in some ways it is helpful, and we can talk about that in a little bit, but it can be very limiting. And so what we have is we have this inner child that becomes afraid to be abandoned and to be let go. So anytime we're doing something and we're growing, it scares the heck out of this inner child. And so it really helps to talk that inner child through as if when we were that child, we wanted somebody to talk us through. And a lot of times people think, oh, well, I didn't have good parents. I wish I had, more support. Well, we can be that person to give
Hmm.
our inner child support.
I did that
And
very recently. I said that on the podcast. I said it's time to break the loop of blaming your parents. Yes, your
yeah,
parents messed you up. It's almost impossible not to. It's a very
yeah,
difficult job. But if you're still breathing, your parents tried. If they didn't
yeah,
smother you in the crib and they
yeah,
showed you love and they put clothes on your back, they put food in your belly, they did their best because they didn't heal. Don't
yeah,
make the same mistake.
yeah. And this will segue into why trauma can be helpful because, in many ways, to keep us from not doing anything that would harm, injure, or in a lot of ways lead to something more serious, they had to, in some ways, create trauma. So we could learn, okay, don't do this and don't do that. And in a way, it does go overboard, one, two, and in a way, the way a lot of parents raise us, it doesn't have to be as severe as we received it, too. And even if our parents raise us well, it doesn't mean that our life would be great. There are people who had, everything a child could want, but it has its own set of limitations. I remember I had dated a woman a long time ago who's who had wonderful parents. I met her parents and they did everything for her. And she said in doing that, it she couldn't take care of herself.
Yep.
So there
I'm
are
so
challenges
glad
to
you
both.
brought that up. There's
Yeah,
always a challenge. I mean, look at Donald Trump. You grow up rich, you grow up with a silver spoon in your mouth, and you
yeah,
grow up not caring about other people. You grow up only caring about yourself,
yeah,
and you lose out on so many opportunities at life. You
yeah,
lose out at connection and relationships and the beauty of loving someone more than you love yourself.
yeah, yeah. So as hard as our past can be sometimes, where we get to a point where we need to listen to heavy metal just to express or connect and relate with someone to so they
Yep.
understand what we're going through. Um, there are, I don't want to say benefits, but there is no perfect upbringing. Let's just say that. And then the second thing is, although we may not have received some of the things we were seeking, we can offer to ourselves, and it's not easy. It's not
Yeah.
easy to be
And
that
and you know what's
kind
one of those
parent.
indicators? Your triggers. The things that
Yeah,
trigger you are the indicators of what you need to be working on as a person because you
yeah,
shouldn't be able to have somebody tell you words and then you lose your shit. You
yeah,
need to have more control over yourself.
yeah. And that's a challenge because working with people with triggers is tough because you can try to
Yeah.
explain to them that, hey, so this is important thing to bring up then as we're dealing with emotional, because I do work on that realm as well,
Please.
is just because you're triggered by someone or you're angry at someone doesn't mean they did anything wrong.
Yes, sir.
This is a huge one because a lot of times when we get triggered or we're angry, our brain can make us feel like,
You know why?
well,
Can I tell you what I feel? Can I tell you what I feel?
yes,
I feel like I've nailed this, Cam. I don't know if anybody else has done this, okay? The reason that somebody feels triggered is one of four things was threatened in their brain, okay? It's
sure.
their peace, their fear, their pride, or their known or unknown traumas.
That's
How
it.
do you
The
like
pride,
that?
especially.
Yes, I
The
know.
pride, especially, because a lot of times we create this story of ourselves that we're this great artist, we're this great musician, we're this great kind person. And if somebody says or does something that threatens that we get triggered. And then here's the thing about being triggered or angry. The brain, the way it works is when someone triggers us and it goes, well, that person triggered us, that means that person did something wrong, and that means that they need to fix it.
Yeah, they threatened your
Yeah,
existence. They threatened what you're about. They threatened your whole being. They threatened your
yeah,
parents. I've had conversations with people like that, and they've explained it that that's how they feel.
yeah,
And it makes sense because those people understand, people better than I do. And
yeah,
so I realized that, it's because they don't hear you let me say that heavy metal is the best music, okay?
yeah,
There's many people that would be triggered by that. Country fans, rap fans, they would get all up in arms instead of
yeah,
just saying, "Hey, what heavy metal song? Hey, I'll tell you what. I'll listen to one of your heavy metal songs if you listen to one of my favorite songs, and then we can compare and see
yeah,
what we think." Instead
yeah,
of going, "Fuck you country, fuck you rap, fuck you
yeah,
trance music," I mean, we're
yeah,
allowed to all feel differently and we should share. We should we
yeah,
should we should never be triggered. We should never say, "Oh, you're not allowed to feel that way." And if that feeling isn't causing somebody else harm that they aren't openly taking in themselves,
yeah,
then leave it alone. And that's my argument against religion. And we won't go
yeah,
down that rabbit hole. As I've
yeah.
said, I respect the ability for everybody to pick their own religion, but if your religion is telling you to hate other people, you picked a bad one. Simple as
or
that.
or you picked a bad messenger of that religion.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I said
Um,
something recent. I'm trying to remember exactly how I said it, but it was something along the lines of, if your belief infringes on someone else's, get a new belief.
yeah.
I think it's something like that.
Yeah. And going back to, comparing my music is better than others. Well, the
Uh-huh.
reason we go into that is again, it threatens our existence
Exactly.
because we want
Because look how much I love
people
heavy metal.
to do what we're doing. And
Yep.
because the more people that are online with my own activities, it's going to support me. So it comes down to our own existence. So if
See,
I
that's
can get,
interesting because that's not the reason I suggest. I told you I was going to interrupt you a lot.
yeah,
That's not the reason I suggest heavy metal. I don't care if people enjoy the beautiful music of Bring Me the Horizon. That's up to them. What I want them to do is be able to heal their brains and their
yeah,
depression and their traumas through heavy metal because I know it's possible.
yeah. Well, I would say the reason you want that is because it happened and worked for you.
Correct.
So the more
That
people
is
that can
true.
do
But
that,
it was recent too. It was very
yeah,
recent. I've been doing the podcast just enjoying heavy metal, but just recently I've become as deep of a fan as my fiance. I just
yeah,
spent $200 on five different heavy metal shirts
right,
today
right. But
because
you
I'm
weren't
just going to
supporting
start
heavy
wearing heavy
metal
metal
prior.
shirts. Yeah.
You weren't supporting heavy metal
Exactly.
prior to becoming a heavy metal fan.
Exactly.
So
And so that's why I'm trying to make the world a heavy metal fan, and I'm going to make the strongest
yeah.
case anybody's ever heard.
So
And Avalanche by Bring Me the Horizon is the best song ever made.
yeah,
That's the song that I want to
yeah,
play for you before. Oh, no, what? You know what? I can't. I can't. You'll have to listen to it on your own
yeah,
because that song is reserved for my fiance or Ollie Sykes if they come on the
sure,
podcast. That's the only
yeah.
person who gets that outro. I will stop, Cam. I know you have much more to
Yeah.
say, and
No, but the
you
point I'm making is like even your heavy metal, it is self-interest. I know you might
correct.
think it's because you want to try to help people, but it's because you listened to it and it helped you. And the more people you can come in line, the more you're gonna get people to do what you're wanting to do.
It
Does that
actually
make?
makes it more difficult because when we go to concerts, then there's going to be more people in the in the crowd, and then it's so.
Yeah,
But that's okay.
yeah,
I'll take that. I'll deal with that when it comes. But I mean, the Bring Me the Horizon crowd, I felt like I was going to die. People were so packed in so tight. It was insane.
yeah,
I've been. I mean, like literally, you're like this. I mean,
yeah.
just people are packed in so tight, and my feet lifted up, but it was an unbelievable experience that I recommend to everybody to at least try once
I
because
have been in
it will bring you some
situations
clarity. Yeah.
in very tight where there's a ton of people that is very tight and
Mm-hmm.
there has been a lot of fear and moments where I thought I might get trampled if one person made the wrong move. So I've
I
been in
no
the
doubt. I was there for 45 minutes and then I had security pull me out. It took me a whole song to get 3 rows up to get pulled out by
Yeah,
security. But my anxiety came over. I was terrified. I truly
yeah,
felt like I could die. And so
yeah,
yeah, and then my fiance, my tiny little 4'9" fiance, was at the front row right behind me when I was getting pulled out. She's just jamming to her, God, Ali
yeah,
Sykes, and he sang right to her. And I mean, it's, she doesn't video that stuff, she just
yeah,
lives it. I can't do that because of my memory, Cam, does not last past like a day. I'm
yeah.
not going to remember anything I've said on this podcast.
That's fascinating. So you see, if there's a book behind me called Everyday Memory,
Okay.
and so I've written a book on memory. Let's talk a little bit about that. Can I ask you a
Sure.
question? How
Please.
much media do you consume?
A lot.
Okay. So if you want to improve your memory, reducing media consumption is going to be really helpful.
Okay.
And there's a reason why. Because we think that there's always this talk that the brain is infinitely powerful, can do anything. And in many ways, that's true, but it has its limitations. And it really helps to work within its limitations. And one of the limitations is that there's only so much information the brain can absorb in a
Right.
given moment. In fact, we're living in a time that we're taking in more information than a person would in a year about 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So
That makes sense.
yeah, and in many ways, the brain, and so as a result, the brain is built to forget, and it's
Mm.
constantly making us forget. Meaning, it's taking all the information that's coming at us, and it's really throwing out most of it, and keeping what it deems important um, for long-term storage.
That
So
is
the
true. I
more,
have I have a pretty Rolodexical mind for when it comes to movies and TV and
yeah,
quotes and things like that.
yeah,
I have a great memory for that. I just can't
yeah.
remember what I'm doing 5 minutes from now.
Yeah, and that leads me to believe that you are watching a lot of media, and so if you're consuming a lot of information through media, then your brain has less resources available
But
to
you see,
maintain.
I don't
Hold
think
on, let
I'd
me
want to
finish.
change.
Your
Okay, go
brain
ahead. Go
is
ahead.
your brain is has less resources available to remember things outside of
Sure.
media. And
That makes
because we're
sense.
consuming so much media, we can barely even remember that because there's just too much information.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and now going back to, I don't think I would want to change. I don't, I don't think you're making that decision. I think there's a
Interesting.
part of you that's going, well, I love media too much.
I
And
do.
so,
It's
yeah,
my autistic. It's I am autistic, and it's my hyperfocus.
yeah,
I adore media with Pluribus, Severance, Breaking Bad. These shows turn off all the noise in my brain. Okay.
yeah,
Most of the time when I'm watching a show, I'm like, oh, that person did a good acting job, or oh, I like that camera angle. But when I watch something that Vince Gilligan made, I am just in a I'm just in a roller coaster. I'm just
yeah.
watching the way he presents it, and maybe I'll have a random thought here or there, but most of the time I'm just in awe. And it's the same thing with heavy metal. It's the same thing. That's what I search for. I search for those moments that say, hey, all the noise in your head is not going to bother you when you digest this content.
Yeah. So what that leads me to believe is that media consumption isn't something you're trying to get to, but something you're trying to run away from. Is you're trying to run away from the noise in your head.
Yes,
And and
partly. And I've
that's
recently
called
just diagnosed that myself.
that's called distraction.
Yeah, okay.
And what I'm trying to get at it is it will be better to work through and deal with the noise in your head than try to
Probably.
run away and distract yourself
Probably.
from it.
But
Because
I'd rather keep going to heavy metal festivals. I'd rather keep going to heavy metal festivals and watching TV and doing an ADHD podcast. But
yeah.
keep talking for other people.
Yeah. And I know what you're saying, and when I hear you say I'd rather, I don't hear you saying I would rather. I hear your resistance saying I'd rather. Your resistance is going, well, I rather just continue distracting myself with all these things so I don't have to really deal with the real stuff that's going on for me
Because
internally.
me staying with my fiance, the best person in the world, the person that I would die for, the person that I love more than myself, is contingent on that. Me doing my podcast is a totally separate thing. She hates it. She despises emotions. She never wants to talk about anything substantive. She only wants to watch heavy metal music, watch
That
TV,
sounds like a very
and
healthy relationship right
I
there.
know, isn't it?
Healthy
Isn't
person
it?
to be.
But it works, Cam. It works. We figured it out. And maybe in a year I'll be miserable, or maybe in a year we'll be living the dream and jet setting around, trying to play at different heavy metal festivals, watching every single person, being able to, I can get her favorite singers onto my podcast because I am so heavy metal focused. Heavy metal is my new hyper
Mm,
focus. I want to
yeah.
get somebody on that's been a fan of Motionless in White so much longer than me and explain all their older music I don't know. I
Yeah.
want to do that with Bring Me the Horizon. You are a stop on this, but you have done you can help so many people, and I love the fact that you are giving me a free therapy session, and I respect it. But what do you think of my rules? Can we talk about my rules? Did you read
Yeah.
over my rules at all?
So first thing you had
Okay,
mentioned
keep going.
is therapy, and I have to say I'm not a therapist,
Fair enough. Yes, I
and
know.
this
I feel the
isn't
same way.
therapy.
I want to therapize
Yeah,
therapists because I did it
yeah,
the other day. I had my first
yeah,
guest on my podcast. He used to be a therapist, and I pointed out that he doesn't talk about emotions very much, and he took that into great. He was offended by that, and he called me out on it, and I respected it, and we talked about it. But
yeah,
it was because he's dealt with his emotions so well that he is just doesn't need them,
yeah.
and so he just is, and but he's written books on emotions. He's written over 100 books, the guy. His name was and I can't remember his friggin' name. He
Yeah.
was yeah, I
He's,
have no
he's,
idea, but it's yeah, he'll be my first podcast when I'm put up, and then
you,
you'll
you
be my
know, it's
second.
kind of you say a lot of stuff that I want to rip on, but at the same time, I
What?
want to stay grounded. One thing you said is, did you read the rules? I guess I may
Yes.
have missed it. I'm sure I did. Did I overstep a rule by any chance?
No, not at all. No, you're
Okay,
living
good.
all the rules. Here, let me read them real quick so you understand them.
Sure.
They're very quick and brief, and
Yeah.
I can get into the here. No, you know what? I'm gonna read them. I'm gonna read them as I wrote them. I'm going to
Okay,
read
great.
them as I made them into little cards, and I'm going to read the little synopsis of them too, because that adds. All right, and then maybe we can read some of my poetry if you want, and you can dissect that. We can go down however you want to go, Cam.
We can go down a lot of rabbit holes, but let's stay
Let's
with
go,
internal
baby.
resistance
Yes, all
because
right,
I've
let's
got
go
some
for the
important stuff to
rules.
bring up.
All right, Cam, this is the meaning of life. All right, everybody talks about what's the meaning of life. I've figured it out. The meaning of life is to grow every day. Whether it's being too quick to judge, being too defensive, doing drugs, bad eating habits, or one of a million other things, that's find something that you can focus on today to make yourself happier and more capable. Once they have overcome their internal resistance, which they need to by following Cam Knight
Yeah,
and listening to Cam Knight in addition to me, and that's why you're
yeah,
on the podcast today,
yeah.
because
And you
you
can
can
follow
probably
Cam
help me
Knight
with
by
that
going to
too.
camknight.com. Just a really good plug.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's circle back to when I was saying how the process of internal resistance works. And this
Yes,
might resonate with you, especially as
yes,
someone that's ADHD. So we have a part of the brain that creates wants, and it's creating endless wants one after another.
yes,
It
yes.
doesn't check to see if we have the time, energy, resources to achieve the want. It simply creates wants. And this part of the brain wasn't designed to check to see if a want is achievable, fulfilling. Its only goal is to create wants. And in a way, it's cranking out wants one after another at a pace faster than any one person can achieve. And so, in many ways, our brain is just it's a the wanting mechanism is like an on-off switch that gets flipped based on certain cues. It sees something and it wants it. It hears something and it wants that too. And oftentimes, just by hearing a thought, it'll trigger ideas that it wants to go down into.
Hmm.
And so,
Oh
does
yeah.
that kind of describe what you may be going through?
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
the like I have you ever seen the movie Memento?
I have. It was one
You
of the
have. That's my
yeah.
only tattoo. That's my only tattoo. Remember Sammy Jenkins.
Uh,
I got the tattoo from Memento because I feel like I'm Leonard Shelby at times. Cam, when I go to metal festivals, I love it. I see the whole spectacle. I see everything. I tried, Cam. I tried. When I went to see Bring Me the Horizon, I said, do it this time. Commit it to memory. Don't record. Don't use your phone. Watch him sing one of your favorite songs, and I don't remember it at all. All I can picture is a red stage and him saying the song that I know he sang, but I don't remember the notes he hits. I don't remember where he went. I don't remember any moments. If I don't have video, it never happened in my brain.
and so are you saying that as a bad thing that you weren't able to remember it?
Yes, because and that's why I video everything now. That's why I
So
podcast. That's why I cover the moment to moment thing. And
so
what I do right now is I've got my compartmentalized. I come on my podcast and I just fucking let everything loose. And
yeah.
then once I'm done with my podcast, I go back out to my fiance. I go back out to a potential job that I'm getting soon. I go back out to, metal, and then I just turn off podcast mode. I don't
Yeah.
care. I'm ready to just interview another person. And then once it's time, I get back into podcast mode, and maybe it's not Cam this time. Maybe it's the Bring Me the Horizon fan. Oh my God, do I want to talk to that person? I want them to tell me about all the songs I don't know, but you don't care about that, and I respect that. But I want that podcast. I want that podcast so bad. I just got to find the right person. But anyway, that's
It's not
the
that I
answer to
don't
your
care
question,
about
Cam.
that. I do
That's the
care
answer to
about
your
that, which
question.
is why I want to kind of help you understand what's going on internally.
Go ahead.
So the brain wasn't built, like I said, we have to work within the limitations of the brain. The brain wasn't built to go to a concert, listen to somebody, and remember every aspect of that
True,
the way you
true. But some
described. It
people
just
seem to
isn't.
be able to.
It wasn't built, and then we were conditioned growing up that we should be able to remember things that way, especially in school and parents telling us, well, I told you that. How many times do I have to tell you?
No, see, no, I
No, no,
gotta
no, no, let
stop
me
you there.
finish,
I
let me
gotta stop you
finish.
there because people will tell me, I remember that smell. I remember, when I was 15 and this happened, and I remember the feel of the fabric on me, and I remember standing on the stage and da da da. They can visualize and talk about it and
Well,
highlight details. I
they're very
can't.
they're very intermittent. We all
Okay.
have that ability, and it happens not by choice. They didn't
Yeah.
choose to remember that specific thing. There was just one specific memory that made an impact on it, and we can't rely on random events to remember the things that we consciously want to. And
Hmm.
if we want to remember something, the way the brain and the body and our whole being works is through repetition. It's
Hmm.
all about repetition. The more we repeat something, the more we can, whoops, I hit my computer,
Yeah,
the
no
more
worries.
it kind of ingrains into us. But if we're trying to rely on remembering something one time, we can't be upset at ourselves for that. Do you know why? Because the more we get upset, the more brain says, "Oh, I'm not good at what I'm doing, so why even
Yes,
try?"
exactly. That's why
And
we
so
said the
then,
emotional
so
brain
then,
and the logic brain, and that was helpful to me. And Cam,
so
I gotta be honest with you. I have trouble following your whole thread because
okay,
you'll say something, I'll follow it, and then I'll be listening, and then I'll forget what you said last time, and then I'll forget the context of what you're talking about. That's how
yeah,
bad my ADHD is. That's why me finding my podcast is my happy place.
yeah,
Because I don't want to take ADHD medication. I don't like the way it makes me feel. I tried taking Vyvanse and my heart felt like I was going to come out of my chest. I did not like it. And I was a little bit more productive, but that doesn't make me happier. I can do a job, do a podcast, love my fiance, and be one of the happiest people on this fucking planet, and that's enough for
okay,
me.
all right. And it's hard to follow me because we're going in different directions.
Correct.
And yeah,
Exactly, because
why
my
don't
mind
we
never stops. Here, let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story. Let me tell
let,
you. Let me tell you
let,
the
let me
story.
circle back to the wanting
Okay.
mechanism really quick.
Yes,
So
I'll
the
remember the
wanting
story.
mechanism, as I mentioned, is unrestrained.
Okay.
So it doesn't check to see if so. Well, how would I say this? The wanting mechanism create so many wants in a single day that even
Sure.
if you lived multiple lives,
Sure.
you couldn't achieve all the
Of
wants you
course.
have in 1 month. So it's
Of
kind of
course.
going all over the place. And this
Absolutely.
is one of the challenges that we have is that we have this brain that just gets triggered and stimulated by different wants. And now we're living in a culture and society where there's a lot of options, and our options have options. And then when we're watching media, it's also triggering our wanting mechanism. And
Yep.
so it's kind of going all over the place. And a lot
Agreed.
of, I think, our ADHD is a result of the environment and time we're living in, with so much stimuli that's triggering our wants to go
Yeah,
in all
but
sorts of
there is
directions.
ADHD you're born with. There is ADHD as diagnosed a disorder that is not because you've been bombarded, but because your brain is different. And this is the exact fucking thing I wanted to say. This is the story that I was going to tell you.
Okay.
So, let me set a stage, okay? I'm going to take like 5 minutes with this, maybe more, all right? And then you can talk, you can diagnose this however the fuck you want, all right? All right, so I told you I was thinking of ending it all last December. Okay. It led up to a point where I was at a company event. I was depressed. I have poems that I wrote that I will read you if you want them to. I'm very proud of them. I think they speak greatly and set a stage, but we'll just go through this right now, the facts. So I went to the evening events. I was dressed to the nines. I brought, I had a nice suit and everything, but inside I didn't want to be there. I knew I didn't want to be there. I knew I shouldn't be there because I hated the company. I hated what they'd become. I was the top writer there for 3 years in a row, Cam, and they wouldn't promote me. Why? Because of my autism, not my ADHD. I get shit done. I was the top salesperson for 3 years running, and they wouldn't consider promoting me. They promoted other people who were better at lying to people. Okay. Next. So, one person out of 100 sees me at the party and says, Nick, you haven't been your usual self. Are you okay? And I told her, I literally, normally I would have been like, oh, yeah, I'm fine. I was like, you know what? Not really. And she was like, "What's going on?" I was like, I mean, it's been rough, but thank you." But I started crying. I said, "Thank you, Patricia. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for seeing me because it meant something at that point, and it still means something today. I can remember." And so that when I felt that flood of emotions, what was I going to do then? I went and drank. I went and drank at least 5 old fashions, I believe six, in less than an hour. Okay. So then what happened? I got sick. I barely made it back to the hotel room and I start barfing. Okay. I've never mentioned this, but of course I'm bouncing between toilet and bathroom. I have to stay naked because I have to switch. I have to have mouth and sit. And so, I'm
Sounds
using
like you did an ayahuasca journey.
there, yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, it kind of was. But so I'm in the bathroom naked, and I'm in the bathtub naked, and I'm just I can see the window out the door of the Hilton that we were staying at. They had a balcony, and I was just like, maybe that's the answer. And then immediately I was like, no, that's stupid. Existence is much better than non-existence. And so I did the only thing I could do. I reached out. I typed on Facebook. I'll read you the message. I still have it. I'll have to pull it up. But it was something about, like, have you ever felt like you don't fit in the world? Have you ever felt like you are, and this is the words in Avalanche. This is why if I'd have listened to that song on that day, I would have felt better. That's my favorite song of all time is Avalanche by Bring Me the Horizon, and I just found it yesterday. I had heard it a couple times before, but I never listened to the frickin' lyrics. It takes me a minute to scroll through all this shit. I never know how to get to it. I'll take a screenshot of it now so I can get to it earlier. But I posted la 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 la. And see, I can talk about this and be fine. I'll have an emotional moment, but that's a good thing. That's shedding some of the shame and some of the just the fakeness or hidden. It's just I feel another layer shed when I cry. I am not ashamed of crying. And we have made people ashamed, especially men. We've told men that it's not okay to cry. It's not okay. You need to be tough, you little pussy. You're going to cry? Oh, what are you, a woman? Yeah, I'd rather be a woman than a man right now because a lot of men are fucking Neanderthals.
So I want to
I've
say
always gotten
something
along
about
better
this.
with
This is
women.
really
Go ahead.
important.
Go.
Is yes, men have been conditioned to not express emotions, especially vulnerable emotions, but it seems like women have not been. And yes, women have been also. It's just it's different emotions. Women have been, I do a lot of emotional work, like I mentioned. They have been conditioned to not express aggressive emotions like anger. And so a lot of women, the challenges I've experienced is that they have pent up a lot of their anger and related emotions, whereas men, we have been conditioned to not
Punch
express
the
the
door.
more vulnerable. So it's not about men or women, or that men haven't been allowed to. It's just that it's different emotions.
Yep. All right. So here's the post. Ever feel like your programming and choices don't line up with living well? Starting to think the way I'm built just doesn't benefit anyone, including myself, and I don't know what to do. Things were so much better a year ago, and it seems like it never happened. Someone please hit me with some wisdom. I should be happy, all things considered, but I've never been sadder or felt like as much of a failure. And so people responded immediately. Keep pushing along, friend. You are an exceptional human being. Praying things get better. Sending positivity and good vibes. This too shall pass, but not just for the negatives. Remember, the positives come often. Life is a marathon, not a sprint. Happiness is a temporary emotion. The fucking community saved me. And those aren't people that talk to me. Those are people I knew in high school, but Facebook saved my life, okay? That's a new podcast. Facebook saved my life. That's a whole podcast episode right there that I can do. So anyway, so my brother a friend that I'd never spoken to reached out and we talked and he was so helpful. I won't read the DMs because that's much more, I don't need to get that personal. But, and then my brother reached out and he said, hey man, what's going on? Let's talk. I want to, I've got tickets to the Magic game because we live in Florida, and it was like, let's go to the Magic game. And I felt the voice in my brain go, "Oh, don't go to the game. That's going to be stupid. You're going to sit there and cry and look like an idiot." And then immediately I went, "No, shut the fuck up. You know, I need to do what you tell me is a bad idea because you're the one that got me here. If I keep listening to you, I'm out the window. So I'm going to do anything but listen to you. I need to do something different." So I said, "Yes, I'll go to the basketball game." So what happened is my brother couldn't go, but he gave the ticket to my mom. So my mom picks me up. I get in the car. I sob like a baby at the second I sit in the car. I don't know if he told her anything, but I cried 5, 6 times on the way to the concert, just getting all this out. I don't remember what I said. I don't remember anything. Or not the concert, the basketball game. So I tell her that, I'll probably cry in the game. If you don't care, I don't care. They can look at me. I don't care what these random strangers think about me that are never going to see me again. Fuck them. But we get to the game and we've had some conversations and I feel good. And I'm watching the basketball game and I have a thought. And instead of just having the thought, I actually verbalized it for one of the first times in my life. I said, "This is a weird thought that people aren't going to get." But I said, "Let's fucking say it." I said, "Mom, I think that when I'm sitting here watching this basketball game, I'm seeing it differently than most people. When I look around and I look at people's faces and I see how they react and everything, I feel like their inner monologue is going, he's bouncing the ball. He passed the ball. He shot the ball. Oh, he missed, but they got a rebound. Yay. Then they scored. Good job, team." My inner monologue is going, I wonder if he's going to dribble it in between his legs. I wonder who he's going to pass it to. I wonder what offense they're running. I wonder what shooting percentage he has. I wonder who's on the bench. I wonder if these are their best players. I wonder who the best offensive player is. They're really good at defense, but they need to work on their offense. How can an NBA team not be good at offense when they're so good at defense? Offense seems easier. They're so good at defense, et cetera, et cetera. That's my brain for 5 seconds. And you know what my mom said to me when I said that to her? She says, "That sounds terrifying." And I said, "It is." And I started crying again. And she reached out and hugged me. I felt her hug my inner child, Cam. And that was the day I started to fucking heal. because my mom finally saw me as a person. My mom finally saw me as the 42-year-old who had it tough because I have a different brain than most people. And that's my story, Cam. What do you take from that?
Well, I do notice a lot of stuff. Some comments you probably wouldn't like. Some
Go
comments.
for it. Do it. Do it. I want to hear it.
There's a strong need to be understood.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's a strong feeling that you're different.
Yes, I am. It's not a feeling. It was the idea that grew that taught me I was right. I am right. There are autistic and there are autistic people that have determined this, that autistics and ADHD people, neurodivergents, have like 3 times the amount of computing going on in their brain at any point. It doesn't mean they're smarter. It means they're bombarded by information. That's not something that you can control by just saying, I don't want to think so much, or I'm not going to watch TV, Does
Yeah.
that make sense? I don't think that neurodivergence apply to some of your techniques. That's what I'm going to say, Cam.
You might not realize this, but majority of my content is written for neurodivergence in mind.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you
And
go.
this is why I am bringing up media so much, is you're saying I can't control the informational input. Well, you can, but you're choosing not to. And
Okay. But I went to a basketball game. I was just watching a basketball game. I wasn't doing anything else.
well, we talked
That's my
about the
point.
informational input that you're receiving, with the media consumption, and you're like, well, I'm not gonna give that up. Well, I mean,
So
you
you think
understand.
so you're suggesting that if I watch less television, that when I watch a
Media, social
basketball
media,
game, I won't
YouTube.
be concerned about the shooting percentage and all of that.
I think it will help a lot. And the fact that you're already in your 40s, I think a lot of damage is already done. And I don't use the
Okay.
word damage
Okay.
in the
And
traditional way.
okay.
I'm just saying that
I can get
like a
behind
lot of
that.
what
And
you become
go ahead,
is
finish your thought.
habituated to that way. And I 100%
I
get
can see
what's
that.
going on inside a
I can see that.
neurodivergent mind
Yeah,
because I
I believe
experience a lot of those same things,
that.
the
Okay.
racing thoughts, the thoughts jumping from one thing to another. And I've put a lot of effort in working on those things. In fact,
Yeah,
I have
see,
a
that
book
seems like a
called
mask to me. I don't like that. I don't
I
like
have a
masks.
I have a
Now we can read my poems because I fucking hate masks. That's my next thing. Okay, we'll read my poems, then we'll go back to growth, but I will let you say whatever you want before you want me to read a poem.
so
What do you got, Cam?
anytime, so like I said, you wouldn't like what I had to say, and then you told me go ahead and say it, and then when I said
No,
it,
but you're
you're
right.
distracting yourself by saying, well, these are some solutions, but I don't want to do that, so let me distract myself with some
No,
poems.
but you are right. I hold myself accountable. I practice compassionate accountability, and you're right. I practice compassionate self accountability. That's my second rule. We would have
Yeah.
gotten there, but I agree with you. And you've made a point. I had an initial response that wasn't triggered. It wasn't mean. It was just my feeling. And then you presented new information, and I said, yeah, you know what? It's true. I don't need to consume so much media. I still want to watch Pluribus. I still want to watch heavy metal shows. I still want to watch heavy metal music. I still want to watch regular, television that I enjoy. But I need to set aside some time to not bounce around from everything and focus on one thing, and that could potentially help my ability to focus down the road.
All right. And
That's what you're
then I
saying.
talked about my experience, and you
Yes.
completely negated it and saying you're putting on a mask, and then you went into your
Okay.
own
Fair
thing.
enough. Fair enough. That's true.
Yeah.
That is true. That is true.
So this goes back to about we're gonna go deep here.
Go.
It's about you having this condition and feeling special about it. And then when somebody else brings up, oh, hey, I had that too, it's like, oh, it's a threat because
No,
now
it's
I'm
not.
not special.
Everybody's different. Everybody has a different spectrum. Everybody, not my ADHD isn't going to act like your ADHD because brains are so complicated. Just one little piece is going to be completely different. I mean, there are so many different computations. It's like fingerprints. It's
Yeah.
like snowflakes. No
Right.
two are alike.
But I
And
do
even
feel
though
that you may
somebody's
have
got
gotten threatened by that when I did bring
fib-
up that I went to something similar, and before I could even talk about it, you're like, "Well, that's putting on a mask. I don't want to put on a mask," and you went
that's
into the
true.
whole thing. So
That's true. It could
just
be.
kind of throwing that out there.
That's because, yeah,
And
no,
it's
I
all data.
appreciate that.
It's yeah. When
It
it comes
is.
to this work, it's just data. I'm not saying
Yes,
you did
I love
anything
data.
wrong,
I
and
love
I'm
data.
assuming you don't think I did anything wrong. There
No, of
are
course
just a
not.
little bit of triggers, and we're just bringing it to the surface.
Yes, exactly. See,
Yeah.
this is what happens in an open, honest conversation, Cam. This is what I do in my podcast, baby. I
Yeah.
want you to therapize me because I want to try to therapize
I'm not a
people.
therapist.
I know, but you don't need to be a therapist to
Yeah.
therapize people. You just
Yeah.
need to understand
Yeah.
emotions and
Yeah.
see and tell them what you see, and
Yeah.
they can
And
either agree or disagree.
yeah, and I do feel like I understand them very well. It's one of the part of my journey because, as I said, I went through a lot of the stuff that you're describing, and emotions
Sure.
were a part of it, and I had to do a lot of work around that. So, but go ahead and share me the story or
All right.
the thing that you
I'll
have
share
written.
you two poems here. So this one's called My Neurodivergent Experience. Chaos, questions, confusion, passion. Feel a purpose burn inside you, yet you can't think clear enough to even name it. Constant fights inside and out, regardless of intent or approach. Born in a world that despises truth, yet be so full of it you fear you'll burst. Frustration, fear, judgment. So I masked, my brain's best attempt at protection from despair. I feel numb, empty, alone. Every interaction is poisoned as I worry. Don't be yourself. People don't like you. Hate grows. No one knows me or accepts me. But how can they when I mask? My cure is a slow poison that rots me away. I am lost. I don't even remember myself. Tears come even now, and they usually do, but I've shed them a lot, and so now they're not as deep. Is it a blessing or curse to feel this much? But I persist. I fight. I believe. I am reborn. It was the truth all along that was my savior. The truth has set me free. Still judged, but in a sick world, being judged and condemned only validates purpose. Life on hard mode, bring it on. I like a challenge, even if the rules of the game change seemingly unfairly. I'm adaptable, I'm capable, I'm so much more than my weaknesses. I will not accept failure. I have the tools, I have the knowledge, I am right where I am supposed to be. Gratitude, hope, kindness, passion. This is my truth. This is the me society convinced me was wrong. And I will never stop growing beyond what I am today. I am proud, and I know I deserve to be. That is new, and it feels so fucking good. And you know what, Cam? That Necessary Evil song by Motionless in White is teaching neurodivergent people and teaching people with trauma how to be proud, how to have ego, because it's very difficult for us to have an ego because we beat ourselves up so badly in our heads. That was my therapy, and it was cheaper and much more fun than going to a therapist and having them tell me you need to get on 8 different medications.
Yeah, no, medication is not the best route. How would you feel if I told you that I really resonated with that? It's
I
stuff
I thought you might.
that I've experienced quite a bit in my own journey.
I thought you might.
Yeah. But how do
Thank
you
you.
feel that
I
that
love that. That
yeah.
makes me happy. I'm glad that you feel it because that's my point. That's what I want to do. I want to help the world feel empathy because I feel deeper than most people, Cam. I feel fucking deep, bro. I
Yeah.
can't express the level of feeling that I feel. Okay. I have empathy for people. My friend, who I hadn't seen in 6 months, his brother in law was shot and killed last week in the street in a road rage incident. And I, set aside time when he came down to see him. And he called me last night at 1 a.m. and I answered and I talked to him. And he was screaming and crying. And I talked to him. And you know what I told him? I told him that I'm going to make him my protege. I told him that I'm going to put him on a diet of heavy metal, and that we are going to break him of all his bullshit.
Yeah. Interesting.
And so that's something to come, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't know how to talk about that, but there we go. That's the plan because
Yeah.
he is so turned around. His dad did a number on him. His dad used to beat him up if he came home from school and found out that a kid was messing with him and he didn't start a fight. You feel that, Cam? His dad used to do that. His dad would beat him up as a child because if he was physically threatened and didn't react with violence, he would be put to violence
Yeah.
because that's what his dad thought was the best method because he didn't want to raise no pussy. And what has happened? My friend is so confused. He's full of rage, full of anger, doesn't know where to place it. He tells me when he's at this. I hope it's okay that I'm sharing this, but he can deal with it. He tells me when he's at this when he's at the home of the wife, his sister. When he's at the home, he says that they're all pretending, so then he has to pretend to not mess them up. And I said, buddy, they're the ones pretending for you. They're the ones worried for you. You're the volatile one that is going to explode. They're dealing with it healthily. The kids lost their father and they're in there smiling and listening to music. They've accepted it. There's nothing they can do. It's out of their control. They understand that because they were raised by a great man. And that's what I told him. I said, your brother, you loved this man so much. You looked up to him. Well, I'll tell you what, George, this is what you're going to do from now on. You're going to emulate this man. You're going to take his spirit into you, and everything that impressed you about him is what you're going to start growing with. You're going to learn from his example and become the person that he was in his honor, so he will never die. How beautiful is that, Cam?
It's good stuff. I do want to talk about one thing that wasn't mentioned in
Let's go.
your story is anger. I do sense you have a lot
Yes.
of anger because
I
one,
don't. I've got rid of
you
my
were
anger.
seeking attention, affection, and approval, and you
Okay.
didn't receive it. And of course, when we don't receive something we want, there is feelings of anger.
Sure.
And I know you talk a lot about compassion and stuff, but I think you're pretty pissed off because you
Yeah,
feel
there's some anger
that
bubbling down there, and that's when I listen to heavy metal. That's when I
yeah,
rage, baby. You saw me jamming out to Necessary Evil. I
yeah,
was not doing that to put on a show, When I listen to that music, I fucking jam, dude.
yeah,
I forgot you were there for a second.
mhm,
I forgot the camera was there
yeah.
because I'm at that show. I'm at a Motionless in White show right now. Chris Motionless, a rock and roll god, is on stage who owns the crowd when he sings. And he was a dork in high school. He has become a god, a rock god, and I emulate him. I wish I could be him because he took his trauma and he sings about it every day and he shoves it in his bullies' faces and he shoves it in every fucking bullshit person's face. He
So there's a
has
lot of
they
anger.
have they have oh,
There's a
absolutely there's anger in heavy metal
there's a
without a
lot of
doubt.
anger
Yeah, no,
going
you're
on.
right. They have a shirt that's a picture of The Exorcist that said your mother, sucks blanks in hell, because everybody is too fucking uptight. We
So
need to
there's
loosen up. We need
anger
to listen to some
because
comedy. We need to stop. We
we
need to stop being so woke, and we need to stop listening to people like Donald Trump. We need to stop listening to celebrities. You're right, I'm mad, Cam. I have things to say to better the world, but I never
yeah,
know
but we
what
want
they
to get to the
are
root of
until they
that
come to my
anger.
mind.
We want to get to the root of that anger, and that
No,
root
no, I love
is,
my anger. I
huh?
need my anger. I need my anger. If I've learned a healthy way to deal with my anger, it's heavy metal, and that's why my
Yeah.
friend needs it, and that's why he's gonna benefit from it.
But it helps to, I'm not saying you shouldn't have anger, but it helps to understand the root of anger. And this is
Sure,
maybe not so
go
much
for
for
it.
you, but maybe for your listeners.
Absolutely.
So again, you describe an experience where you felt you were different from the norm or the
I
mainstream
don't think I'm different. I
or
am different.
what you were
That's an
around.
important distinction I have
And
to make.
because of that, you missed out on experiences that
Yeah,
feeling similar could have helped you with,
yeah.
and
I'm
it
making up for lost
caused
time.
challenges as well. And now
Mm-hmm.
there's anger because of that. And
Sure.
now you're angry at people, especially the people who are the norm, because you couldn't be
So
the
is
norm.
so is
Or,
every heavy metal. Okay,
yeah.
I have to play another heavy metal song for you now. Once you're done with
So
this, I'm
again,
gonna
this
play you a
goes
new
back
one.
to when we're getting to heavy stuff, you could distract yourself.
No, it's okay. No, I'll let you finish, and then I'll play you a real angry
Yeah.
song.
So I'm again just data, but when we do get talking about deeper stuff, you wanna
No, it's
either
okay.
interrupt me or distract into something that we're
Right,
not
because
really
I'm
talking about.
excited to show something on my podcast. If we, I
Mm.
understand if it doesn't vibe with what we wanna do.
So for the listeners, I do want to say that
There we
this is
go.
one of the ways resistance shows up
All right.
is when the brain blocks us from wanting to do something, it'll distract us or switch gears very quickly. So just be aware and pay attention to those things because there's a lot of information why we would want to switch gears or
Yeah, just
yeah.
like I said, trigger. But
Yeah.
I'm living with it, baby. I have mastered it
This
because
is great. I'm loving it. Yeah.
that's why the words ADHD is the first words in my podcast now.
Yeah.
Because it used to be Autistic Pod, but I am not more autistic than I am ADHD. I'm just autistic because I'm abrasive and don't care about societal niceties,
Mhm.
and but the ADHD is running the fucking show.
Yeah.
So let me play this song and then we could talk about this or do anything else you want.
Stimulation starts in the brain, where signals are sent through
Get
the
it,
nervous
buddy.
system, triggering the release of
Look at
nitric
this.
oxide.
You can
That
hear it, right?
relaxes blood vessels.
All the stupid lies and the stupid games left a vacancy in this picture frame. A prisoner by my own hands. 'Cause if I can't have me, then no one can. I need to heal what I inflict, but I'll burn that bridge when I get to it. As I play roulette with a broken gun, I confess these sins with a sharp and spiteful tongue. So how do I apologize and put the tears back in your eyes when every canvas that I pierce is a masterpiece made of my mistakes. Outlined and killed, my portrait stares in a gallery where the walls lie bare as I modernize my anti-ways.
I've never heard that before.
Letters can't escape the polish of fate. So how do I apologize?
There's my growth for the day. tears back in your eyes when every canvas
is a masterpiece made of my mistakes.
Here we go, baby.
Illustrate all my pain and set it all ablaze. Bang!
You see, here comes. You're 100% right. There's a lot of fucking anger in there, and it gets out.
So how do I apologize and put the tears back in your eyes when every canvas that I paint is a masterpiece of my mistakes, and in the light of my demise I see my failure.
See, you see my fingers in your eyes, get it? Canvas that I paint is a masterpiece made of my mistakes. Oh boy. What'd you think of that one, Cam?
So I did something a little different for this one. I like that you're playing the words in the song.
Yeah.
So I muted the volume and I just wanted to listen. I just wanted to read the lyrics.
I like it.
I want to see how I would receive it, just so I can understand what you're trying to get at with the lyrics.
I like it. What'd you get, buddy?
And I do understand that heavy metal isn't what I thought it was, which is I thought it was just like pretty violent
It's fucking
music.
genius, isn't it?
And but when
deep
you
as
look at the
hell.
words, they are expressing some deep hurts.
This
and
is what I'm
angers
talking about, brother.
and
That's the tip of the
rejections that-
fucking iceberg, man.
that people have.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Incorporate this, bro. I'm showing you. Listen to heavy metal. I'll give you 4 bands to start with. Starset. Listen to Starset. Starset gets what's wrong with society better than any politician. They have songs about how social media rots our brains. It's called Toxic. It's about TikTok. They've got a song called Dystopia, where the chorus goes, batten down the fucking hatches. This is what you get when you still play with matches. Back to sticks, back to stones, 'cause the words broke our bones. And we're right back to the same old habits. Too bad we almost had it. So it's basically like society was on the cusp, but it fucked up and now we're fucked.
Yeah.
Unless we change. That's heavy metal, baby. That's heavy metal. That's what heavy metal's bringing to the fucking table, Cam. They're not dancing, booty shaking at night. They're fucking fixing issues in people's brains. They're letting all that anger rage. Because Masterpiece is a slow song, Cam. Masterpiece is his ballad. But to people, it sounds like it's a heavy song because he shouts and gurs. But it's a beautiful song.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I think that's what
Anyway,
original
let's get
rap
back
and
to it.
hip hop music
Whatever
was
you-
too.
Yeah, I agree.
And it kind of got lost in what it is
100%.
now,
Oh yeah, it
unfortunately.
became just about bitches and money and how awesome I am.
Yeah.
Yep.
The one thing I did notice is, it's one thing to listen to and be like, yeah, I resonate with this. And then it's another thing to actually act on the music that we're listening to.
Oh yeah, I can't
Yeah.
sit still when I listen to it, baby.
Well, not acting as in like jumping, but he's essentially saying media is ruining things. And if I go tell people, hey, we got to limit media consumption, they lose their stuff on me. And so here,
No,
Yes,
but there's a happy medium. There's a happy medium, just like you said. You don't want to get too much information. That's why you find, and that's why that could be another rule. I mean, I could keep making rules. That another rule could be that you do things in moderation, especially absorbing technology. I'll make that
Mm.
note, and maybe we could do that in the future. Do things in
Moderation does help,
moderation.
but some people
Hmm.
aren't in a place for moderation. I think it's either or for a lot of people. So,
Yeah, that is true. That is
yeah,
true. It's a slippery slope, but that's a
it's
great point, man. See, I love the fact that you're being so honest with me. Do not be afraid to call me out if you think I'm full of
you do
shit.
make it a little challenging, I will be honest.
I like it. I like it. All right, you want to hear another poem, or do we want to go back to my rules, or you got something you want to go over? Because
um,
this is my banger poem. Let me read my banger poem.
sure.
This one does the whole. This one's long, but this one does the whole story of my life.
Yeah.
A mask sits on my face, and I don't feel it, but it's there. It does most of the talking because my brain says I don't talk good. Okay, but then why doesn't it help? If I'm wearing a mask, shouldn't it work? I didn't even say anything, but my lips moved, and I'm still sad. You know what? It's everyone else that's the problem. I'm awesome. Was that me or the mask? Can I even tell anymore? A mask sits on my face, and I don't feel it, but it's there. Is there a mask there? I just feel like people suck and are stupid. Let's point out all the ways they're dumb. That'll be fun and make us feel better. Social media shows me lots of people to own, and I do. I'm fairly intelligent, so I make myself feel a little better by flexing my brain and making them look stupid to anyone who sees it and isn't stupid themselves. Yay. I love life, don't I? I smile at my parents and family. I joke with my colleagues. I get excited about movies, TV, anime. Why aren't I happy? Wasn't there something on my face? That sounds stupid. I'm just me. I find a woman who invigorates me and accepts me behind closed doors. She doesn't want me to change. I knew I was okay. I have a great job. The sky's the limit. But things change. 2 years after my best job ever, I see cracks, lies, deception. I love your unique view, Nick. Please feel free to share any idea you have. But it was a lie. The world and corporate America don't do honesty unless it benefits. Something broke. I have a good job, the love of my life. Why does everyone lie so much? I'm scared. I cry. I hide. I feel like I'm dying. Why? I'm smart. Figure it out. It doesn't act like anything I've felt or understood. It tells me I'm shit. Maybe I am. I'm at a hotel for a celebration for the company. I don't want to be there, but I better not miss the opportunity to schmooze and campaign for management that I've been looked over for multiple times, despite being the top salesman in the company, even this year, through everything. One person out of hundreds sees my pain. She asks me if I'm okay, and I say not really. Whose voice was that? Why did I say that? Does this mean I've given up? I drink. Hard. Not an hour later, I'm vomiting in a toilet. What good am I? My fiance would be better off without me. The job doesn't care. My parents will move on. Maybe that cool air on my face as I fall will be the peace I've always sought. What the fuck was that? I panic. I do the only thing I can do to try and pull myself out. I ask for help. No one will answer. I haven't affected anyone's life. I've been quiet, awkward. I don't stand out. Ding, ding, ding. Friends who I don't speak with respond immediately with kind words. I chat with a man I don't even know. My brother reaches out in spite of petty squabbles and invites me to a basketball game. You're just going to ruin the night, my brain tells me. No, you put me here. I need to do something you tell me is a bad idea if I'm going to have any chance of beating this. What's this mask doing on my face? It must have been there for something. I share. I cry, lots more. I hug. I see a therapist. He doesn't magically make me better, but he's a kind voice who listens and validates my feelings. I have a mask in my pocket to remind me our brains aren't always our friends. I never want to feel that way again, but I understand you were just doing your best with what you had. Now I feed you. Now we grow. Now we thrive. Thank you, mask. Even though you nearly killed me, you were also what led me to my awakening. I no longer have a mask on my face, but I still cry. And after I cry, I always feel better. I no longer hide from my emotions or from who I am. Why on earth did I ever? Oh well, hindsight is 2020.
Again, your writing is fantastic. I think it
Thank you.
definitely resonates with a lot of people. The voice that a lot of people have in their head
Yep.
is, I think a lot of times people are wanting to be seen, heard, to known, and to matter.
Yep.
And they
Absolutely.
are putting on a mask to be able to do that. And they feel like they have to put on that mask to be able to do that.
But
But
then
at the
it's not
same
them
time,
being seen or heard. Then it's not them.
then it's
It's
not
not
fully,
them, and
which
it
is why
doesn't, and it
they
does,
don't
and
feel
it
it.
doesn't
Yeah.
work. It doesn't work.
Yeah. Not always. Yeah. And then
True.
there is
Some people pull it off.
there's hurt and anger that we aren't seen, heard, and known.
Hate
And
grows. Yep.
yeah, and it grows.
Mhm.
The one thing I do want to riff on based on our conversation, especially your
Sure.
stories,
Sure.
is a concept that I call voices of resistance. So a
Okay.
lot of times when we have thoughts in our heads, because they're in our heads, we think we're thinking them. And because we're
Right.
thinking them, we think they're valid and true. But really, a lot of times it's just a voice of resistance. And so the key to this work is understanding the voices of your desires and the voice of resistance. They're both your voices, but one seems like it's pushing you forward when it's really holding you back.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yep.
think this is
That's that person that I murdered in the bathtub that night, or maybe
yeah.
at the basketball game. I don't know
So you had
exactly
a
when,
voice in
but
your head that was
yep.
telling you should do this, act this way, behave this way, and it wasn't giving the result that you wanted.
Yep.
And you were able to actually come to the realization that it wasn't really fully your voice or voice that was helping you.
Yep.
And it will. And
Here, let
you,
me say an
no, let
ADHD
me
thing right now,
finish. Let me
Cam. No,
finish.
no, no, this is really good. This is really good. So I am a smart guy. I know my emotions. I was able to handle my emotions myself. A lot of people don't. They need somebody like you. They need a coach. They need somebody who can give them these answers, because I almost ended up out of a balcony because I didn't have the answers and I got lucky.
Yeah.
Okay? Cam is saying the right things, okay? Just because it worked for me doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody, but it works for me, and Cam has all the same answers that I do. We're both on the same page. We just arrived with different paths.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to say, buddy.
All right. Well, thank you very much. This might be a good time to close the podcast because I do have
Okay.
something to hop onto.
Yes, sir.
This was fantastic.
Thank you.
And you had warned me. You're like, hey, this can go in so many directions. And if I had done this maybe a year or two ago, I might have been a little rattled, but I've been doing a lot of podcasts recently. So this was awesome. I think both of our listeners are going to find a lot of value in it. Can I offer a couple gifts to your listeners?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So I've got 3 free gifts for everyone who made it this far. The first is called Prompt Engineering for Your Mind. People don't realize, but the human brain was the original ChatGPT, and you can prompt it to give you answers and act on those answers. So that's the first guide. The second guide is Build Habits and Behaviors in Your Sleep. People don't realize that it's actually possible when you work on the unconscious that you can actually develop the skills and behaviors you want to move in the direction that you like. And that's the second guy. And the third guy goes deeper into this topic of internal resistance called End Procrastination and Sabotage. It talks about our wants even more than we talked about here, as well as different causes of resistance, but more importantly, the tricks of resistance. And they can get all 3 of those on my website at camknight.com.
There you go. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to say, Cam, I want to say from my ADHD addled brain where I did offend you. And you know what? The way I want to end this is I want to read my boundaries poem because I think this is my best one and it's incredibly short.
Okay, no offense here.
And
Like I said, this is all
no, I
data.
get it. No, you
Yeah.
laid down a boundary and that's healthy and I respected it. And
Yeah.
you called me out. You said, "Hey, I don't agree with this." And I said, "You know what? You're right. I
Yeah.
did mess up. Thank you for calling me out."
Yeah.
Boundaries. Nothing is more important. Boundaries protect your known or unknown traumas, your pride, your peace, and your fears. Boundaries are like fingerprints. No two are alike. Our boundaries reflect our minds, our experiences, and our dreams. Boundaries, though, like everything else in life, require balance. If your boundaries are too strong, no one can ever know you, and you will feel alone, bitter, and hateful. If your boundaries are too weak, you will be used, manipulated, and easy to forgive others. Your boundaries decide your future, your fate, and your love. Choose wisely.
Beautifully said. Those are all, again, you're a great writer and you really hit at the core of a lot of what people are struggling with and what they're trying to do to help themselves that may not be working.
Yeah,
This
and it's
is
funny
really
because
good
I've
stuff.
actually therapized myself and I've recognized that I'm a little kid who wants to show off my toys, and my favorite toy is my brain.
Yeah.
And thank you for playing with me today, Cam.
Yeah.
That's gonna be my new outro. Thank you for
Thank you for
playing with me
playing.
today, Cam.
Yep. I love that. I have a good friend who uses the word play a lot to help people when she works with them. She always says, "Do you want to play? Can we play?" So yeah.
Well, I enjoyed our play date. I
Yeah.
enjoyed our adult play date where our two children talk to each other because we're all just kids that, grew up into an adult body, but we still
Yeah.
have the same brain that we had as a child.
Yeah.
So thank you for playing with me today. And may I recommend anybody who liked anything I said, Cam knows what the fuck he's talking about. I guarantee you could take it 10 times deeper. Cam
Yeah.
would break me open better than I could, and he would heal me and get me off of heavy metal, but I don't want to lose my anger because I get it all out at the metal shows, baby.
Yeah, love it. So yeah, anyone who wants to work with me, just email me mentor@camknight.com. And again, I gotta hop on. So
Yep.
before we go down another rabbit hole,
Absolutely.
thank you
Nope,
again.
I
This
feel
was
you.
fantastic.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye bye.